let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine.
Now, this is what happens to us as Christians who are not of Berean minds, yes. We read, but we do not see what we are reading. And some of the things that lead us not to see what we are reading, it's how we are psyched. Anything that is said by umfundis need not be questioned. It's correct. Now, go with me and ask yourself a number of questions. And I'm going to take you through a number of questions that you should ask as an Adventist. We said the Bible is complete. The Bible is the true book of God, isn't it? We all believe in that, right? But let's read Genesis 4, verse 17. And then you answer the question that may come from abazalwane lapha ngaphandle, or the atheist, or those who are criticizing Christianity. Genesis 4, verse 17. Genesis 4, verse 17. Anyone who can read it for us?
And Cain knew his wife, and she conceived and bare Enoch. And then he built a city and called the name of that city after the name of his son Enoch.
So Cain knew his wife and got a child. Where did Cain find a wife? Where was that wife from? Because remember, according to the Bible, right? At the time, there were not many people. It was Adam, Eve, Cain, and Abel. Cain kills Abel. Now suddenly Cain has got a wife. So do we believe in the Bible? Do we believe in the Bible? Yes. And I'll tell you why you should believe in the Bible. Albeit we may not be able to answer that question. Where did Cain suddenly get a wife? We may not be able to answer it. But we've got a way of answering it. We've got a way of answering it. Right? One of the ways, there are many ways, and I'm going to give you some of them. If possible, I will email some of the ways of finding out this information to the elders. In the book of Joshua, or Yeshua, those of you who read in Hebrew, you will find that there was a fight that Joshua get involved with. It had nothing to do with him, but he got involved, and in that fight, he prayed to God. And he said, God, let the sun stand still until all the enemies of Israel are defeated. You remember that? And the Bible says the sun stood still. Ne? Until the enemies, or the 5 kings that were attacking his friends or neighbors or brothers, actually got defeated. And that verse, I think it's Joshua chapter 10. That verse says, now if you want to know more about the happenings at the time, read the book of Joshua. Have you ever seen that verse? I think we believe in the Bible, ne? Ne? Do you see that verse? Chapter 10. I think it's... Yeah. It says, if you want to know what happened during that time, when the sun stood still, and what was happening around that time, go and read the book of Joshua. Now, once you have read the book of Joshua, or as you continue to read the book of Joshua, as I'm doing, you then are able to answer a question, where did Cain get a wife? And that's not heresy. Ne? It is the Bible that says, go and read the book of Joshua. You don't read the book of Joshua, you cannot answer questions like, who got Cain a wife? You can't. It's impossible. Remember, Bazalane, remember, the book of Genesis is not eyewitness news as far as Moses is concerned. It was a dictation. Moses was told by someone. But from Exodus to Deuteronomy, the last book, it is eyewitness news for Moses. Yes, he was told the first 12 years of his life, he was told by his mother, his sister Miriam, etc., etc. That you can take good. He can be as accurate as possible. But the book of Genesis, there is a lot that is not in the book of Genesis that you'll only understand if you go to the books like the book of Joshua. That the Bible tells you to say, go and read the book of Joshua. It's not a book that we pick up in the street and we don't know about. It is the Bible that says. In fact, there are more other verses that tell you that please go and read the book of Joshua, even in the New Testament. The New Testament, Paul refers to the book of Joshua. Right? Here's another question. Let me ask you another question. Who wrote the books 1 Samuel and 2 Samuel? Who wrote those books? 1 Samuel and 2 Samuel. And we said we love the Bible, we know the Bible. The Bible is the truth of God. That's why we're Christians, because we read the Bible. Who wrote the first and second books of Samuel? See, even preachers are checking their information. Yeah? The first and second books of Samuel, Sikule, Gutiwa, they were written by Samuel. We grew up like that, my brother. The challenge that an atheist will have with you is that how sure are you that the first and second books of Samuel were written by Samuel? Because Samuel dies in 1 Samuel chapter 25. He dies, he gets buried. How does he continue to write the following chapters up to the end and the second book of Samuel? How? Of Samuel. It is Samuel himself, and then is the prophet Nathan. You remember Nathan? Nathan, the one who confronted David, and prophet Gad, G-A-D. Not Tinaba Buekaya, Nkaya. Must God sit God. No, not that one. G-A-D. G-A-D. God. Or Gad. So those are the three authors of the first and second books of Samuel. But Tina Sikulela Esabaten, Abakulele Sabaten, or Rome, Abakulele Rome, or in school when we're doing religious instructions, Sikule Gutiwa, the first and second books of Samuel were written by Samuel. How do you write when you have died? You can't. So some of these manuscripts, the second book of Samuel, are coming from the scripts that Samuel wrote while he was still alive. Right? But the rest of the completion of that was done by Nathan and Gad. So we need to be extremely careful how we read the Bible. Umamun Tlap took us through Psalm 91. You can only understand Psalm 91 if you understand the history of David. Last time we covered it. You heard for the first time, some of you, that David's mother was Netzivet. If you did not understand Netzivet and you don't understand Psalm 67, it's very difficult to understand Psalm 23. But where do you get all that information? You cannot get it in the Bible. You need to go out and check other sources and understand when David says, I was a stranger to my brothers, my own brothers. I was an enemy to my own brothers. What did he mean? You will not understand it unless you know the history of David's mother, Neziveth. He says, even though I walk through the shadow of death, I fear no evil. Why? Because his father, Jesse, said to his brothers, let him go and look after the sheep there where it's dangerous, where there are bears and lions, etc., so that he can die. You will not find it in the Bible. But you will find Psalm 23, and you will find Psalm 67, and you will not understand why, unless you go down and read the books that the very Bible says, go and read those books. It is the Bible that says, go and read those books. So mawusitosha isitokisi wethu sibone ukuthi simnandi yena ufuna ukusilahla simunye bese uthatha okungamunyeki ukukhafule, because even with these books there are certain things that don't make sense to me as hlangani, and you need to be able to discern that information that is not that you are not comfortable with or you don't have proof of. Let me just give you other examples. There are ancient books that the Bible refers to. And again, for those of us who read the Great Controversy, I was hoping I will not get there. But for those of us who read the Great Controversy, not the Great Hope. No, there are two books. There's one, the Great Hope, there's the Great Controversy. The Great Hope it's a way of Adventists saying we are sorry to the Pope. The Great Hope. I'm not saying don't read it, but I'm saying it's sanitized. It's a sanitized book. Kukhona izinto ekuthiwe zikhipheni so that we do not take you to court nina as Adventists, and they had to do that. Am I right, my brother? Yes. Right? So go back. If you have the Great Controversy, the original one, cherish it, keep it, make it something that your children and their children will inherit from you. Because very soon that book will be normal. Right? For those of us who read the Great Controversy, you will know and understand that there was a Council of Nicaea, right, where they decided. They sat down and decided which books are going to be part of the canon, which books are not going to be part of the canon. They sat down. As they were drafting the agenda of colonizing the world using Christianity, there are certain books that did not suit them as they were sitting in the Council of Nicaea. Go and read it in the book, Great Controversy. You will find that. That is where, as they were putting things together, down the line, we find something called the Reformation. We find Martin Luther. We find Zwingli. We find John Calvin. We find all those people coming up and saying, but this is not right, and challenging the Catholic Church. Sadly, having challenged the Catholic Church, they then went back to worshipping the way the Catholic Church worships. Anyway. Right? It is only a few that continued, like the Baptist Church. If you know our heritage, you'll understand that from which we come, we continued to worship on Sabbath. Right? And others worshipped with us, continued, and then opened their churches, Abu Russell, and things like that. But let me give you the ancient books that the Bible refers to. I gave you the book of Joshua. We find that in Joshua chapter 10, verse 13. And you find the book of Joshua again being referred to in 2 Samuel chapter 1, verse 18. 2 Samuel chapter 1, verse 18 does refer you back to the book of Joshua. 2 Timothy, Paul refers to the book of Joshua. 2 Timothy chapter 3, verse 18. it is not advisable to feed a new Christian hard meals. Ne? Feed them what? Milk. Would look soft, right? It becomes slightly difficult, especially for people who are not studious. These concepts become very lokunji. And trust me, I believe, Mina, if you read the Bible and the Bible only, it is sufficient for your salvation. You don't necessarily need to read all these things. We read all these things because people come and ask you a question, where did Cain get a wife? You can't answer, you've lost that soul. And then what do we do as Adventists? Let's pray for that soul. Yeah, you can because we are lazy to do what? To read and research. So it is sufficient, Bazalwane, to read the Bible and finish, even if you don't go to the spirit of prophecy. Because there's also another myth that if it's not confirmed by Ellen White, it's not true. Do you know how many gaps you find that Ellen White did not reach? Even if you read The Desire of Ages, that tells you about the life of Christ from birth to ascension. There are a number of gaps that you will experience. And if you come across that verse that Ellen White has not commented on, please don't say that verse does not exist. Because it's in the Bible. So what am I saying today? My message is very simple. Let us be studious. Let us be like the Berean Jews who do not only accept what's coming to them. And I've shown you in the beginning that when we accept what is coming to us without checking out, we end up saying the fight was between Christ and Lucifer, which is wrong. There's no verse like that in the Bible. But we grew up knowing that. Are we together? So what I'm saying today, Uguti, let us please go and check and research information. There are other things that we do. Ngay 24, Zombon will be leading that. Ngay 24. Right? When you read the Bible, and we believe in the Bible. So there are other things that we do that are not correct but are not necessarily sin. Khona izinto ezirong esizenzayo kodwa ezingasiso isono. Ngiyezwakala? EBhayibhelini when you read, it says Christ gave them Holy Communion. Makaqeda wabageza inyawo. Is it in the book of Mark or John? But as Adventists, we wash feet first and then we partake in the Holy Communion. So the day we read you that verse, no, we're doing it wrong. Don't say, yeah, but, sikhule kanjalo. Understand that we are doing it inversely, but it's not necessarily sin. So when someone comes to you and say, why nina masabata nikala ngokugeza inyawo, kanti uKristu waqala ngokudlisa and then wagezisa inyawo? It's one of those things that, depending on our interpretation, how it suits us, but it's not necessarily sin. So the book that I'm writing, I am opening up all these questions and I'm trying to come up with answers to those questions. And leyo gezinyawo qala is one of those that I cannot back up any other way except that the Adventist movement took that decision. But will it take us to heaven or will it take us out of heaven? The answer is it's immaterial. It's very immaterial. So I'm glad and I see it happening each time I'm here. Ukuthi as imali hambe, you have no time to debate how you sing. There are other churches that debate ukuthi ngicula kanjani. Khona abantu abakhubekayo baze baphume ukuthi kuculwa ama-chorus kule nkonzo. So don't have time for that. Have time for spiritual maturity and spiritual growth. ukuthi umuntu ugqoke kanjani, it's immaterial. Mboniseni ke, but don't mthathe nimbeke la nti abgqokwa kanje la and all those things. Don't have time for that as a church. You must have time for research and checking more about understanding God and going towards spiritual growth. There's a lot and there's enough material for that in the Bible and also referenced by the Bible to other books and other material. So my plea to you today, let us be like the Berean Jews. Umuntu mageza la azofundisa. Take it, go and check it and validate it. And next week or whenever, ask questions where you are not satisfied. And in that way, it's going to help you grow as a church. Be a church that reads, a church that researches, a church that wants to find out more. So that these children, when they grow up, because when they grow up, they're going to ask you those questions. I've given you the first answer. Uzokubuza untombazana sikekede ukuthi uKain umtholephi umfazi ukuthi abe nabantwana. Uzokubuza because she will come across that question at school. You can't say no, let's pray about it mntanami. Doesn't work like that. This generation believes in hard facts. Believes in hard facts. There is, let me not go to this one, it's a bit hard. It's a bit hard. I would really love ukuthi le ngiyenze when we have time, enough time. Because there we are going to touch things that are going to hit hard, very, very hardcore things, where we investigate and look at the angels. Yeah, it's hard. You find it in Ezekiel and in Jeremiah. It's very, very hard. Your children are going to ask you one day, or your grandchildren, Baba, why are the good angels white and the bad angels black? And there's an answer, by the way, in the Bible. And I'm going to give it to you one of these days. Right? The issues of racial discrimination, the issues of this young man here. He got paid a lot of money, by the way, for posing this on this. We will do a proper study around that. And I'm telling you, all these things are in the Bible. They are in the Bible. The other one that I would like you to do, please go and read Ezekiel chapter, is it Ezekiel chapter 44 or Jeremiah chapter 44? I think it's Ezekiel chapter 44 that talks about the priests, how the priests should look like, how the priests should behave, how the priests should that. That chapter has got wealth of information, and it's gonna help you answer questions like the one that I've just looked at. So my prayer today, as we leave and we go home, let us please behave like the Bereans. Abangayithathi into nje ihlaza bayidle bayihlafune. Bayithatha bayigeze bayibheke bayihlole bayipheke mangabe iyaphekeka bazokwazi ukuthi bayidle basuthe. Don't take it raw as it comes. Don't take it raw as it comes. Take it yetshise njengenkomo uyigwinye maso ready ukuyigwinya. That's how we should be. Otherwise iBhayibheli lithi bazawufika abaningi with false doctrines and they will sweep you. They will sweep you. I always make this example. Urebi kangakasijoin Alexander Church. I always make this example. Besi practice anabumfundisa umndiri and uhloni uMandla Kumeto uDumsane Kumeto. Lega buhloni 18. Practicing sijulukile. Sabbath. And this guy comes, he's selling whatever he's selling. And we say, ish, man, and it's petty mali, and we want to buy, we can't buy because we're Adventists. Adventists can't buy on Sabbath. That's how we're brought up, ne? And he says, you are Christians, you are Adventists. We said yes. He opened the verse. Ubonga wangivulela lona ngelilanga ekhaya ngikhuluma ngalelo verse. He opened the verse that says, this Jesus of yours was a glutton and a drunkard, and you followed him. In the Bible, it says, this Jesus was a drunkard. He was a glutton. As a glutton, it means umuntu odla kakhulu, and you followed him. And he closed the Bible after that. Saklagega. We got to church the following day. We did not even dare to open the Bible. Because remember, we did not read the whole verse. And the verse says, the guy, he took the Bible, he said, Nine Bible said, Wavula, John something, I think. He said, read here. Jesus came and he was a glutton and a drunkard, yet you followed him. Waval. We did not read the whole verse. We did not read the context around that. It was people who were criticizing Christ, but you did not quite follow John the Baptist, who was a vegetarian eating locusts and all those things. This one comes and he sits with sinners and all those things, and yet you are following him. Just that small part, and we're confused. So we need to be studious, Bazala. We need to read. We need to understand. It is no time to have powerful sermons for Adventists. We are fine. But we need to arm ourselves so that when we go out there and we go and evangelize, we know our story. That's why Pepper Evangeli doesn't tickle me. Right? What tickles me is research, studying, the Sabbath school lesson, the last part of the Sabbath school, further studies or further reading. That tickles me. Because then you are able to go and answer and challenge people out there who come up with false doctrines. Sometimes they will use the Bible to confuse you. They will use the Bible. They'll tell you the Bible conflicts itself. Ngapa it says, thou shalt not kill. Ngapa it says, why did you let King Agag live? No? So you need to be able to move along with those things and understand the background and what Christ or what God was saying at the time. I'm very jealous about this church. Singathatha umoya. Ungafika abantu la and say things and we believe in them without checking and researching. Amen.
Gonna light up the whole